So before looking at the syntax of array formulas, I think it's important to think about why we would need an array formula in the first place. Because Excel has over 300 built-in functions. Let's take a look here. This is the function list, and you can see there's a whole bunch of these built-in functions. So why would we have to do something above what we see right here? Many different functions here. But the thing is, there's lots of normal functions to sum, to count, to average, to get the smallest value, the largest value. There's also ways to say, I want to sum or add a bunch of values if a condition is met. For example, I want to sum up these numbers if this code equals L9. So that's still a built-in function. I'll show you. Equals sum if. Built-in function. You have one condition that's possible, or sum ifs. You can put in multiple conditions. So that's all possible. But what about other functions like the right function, the mid function, median, weekday, week number? If we want to get the median, which is just get a bunch of values and get the number that's in the middle once it's sorted, well, we can get the median of these numbers, but we can't easily get the median for these numbers only for those that have a version code over here of L9. That would be a condition, and there is no median if. So that's one way to look at it, why we might need an array formula. Of course, you can often use helper columns to create your conditions instead of an array formula, and sometimes that's even better. Let's look at this column here. It's saying the right function, give me the right two characters of the product code all the way down. So the 3-0 at the end, the 9-3 at the end, the 6-3 at the end. You often can use helper columns, but sometimes it's just not allowed in your data set, or many different reasons why you might not be able to. So I like to say that an array formula gives you the freedom to create your own logic. And I'm going to just show you some examples here. Not go into the syntax, that's another thing, but just show you what's possible. So we've covered what normal functions are, just the different ones that you can see. And let me just go back here. And so we looked at a bunch of normal functions. Anything where you type in the equal sign and then you start typing in the S for sum, and it will complete for you. So we've just looked at all of these up here. All these are normal functions. They can take a condition, these ones in this row. Here we have some more normal functions, but they can't take conditions. So we might be able to use array formulas for these. Now I have created some other videos talking about sum product, which can do some pretty interesting things. But array formulas can do even more interesting things that you wouldn't be able to solve in any other way. So now let's go and take a look at some of these examples here. So we'll go over to dynamic hyperlink. And here we have, I created a video on this earlier, where you type in the name of a country here, and there is a normal hyperlink function that I can show you, equals hyperlink, but you basically hard code in where you want to go, and it's not that dynamic at all, really. There's a couple different ways that you can make it dynamic. One of them is to create an array formula, and you see the syntax here. It's quite long, but my other video shows you step by step. Here's sort of the steps to do it, and you sort of combine it all together. But anyways, you click this dynamic hyperlink, and it takes you to the largest city for Brazil. If I type in, let's say, Canada, and I click this dynamic hyperlink, it jumps down to the row that has Toronto. So that's one example of an interesting array formula. Now there's some more that we have here. Other kinds of, I would call them, dynamic hyperlinks or array formulas that would say, jump to the first cell with trailing spaces. So when you look at this list, you've got text, you've got some blanks, you've got some numbers. Well, you can't see with a human eye, and imagine it's a much longer list. But which cell has spaces in there? Now we could use the trim function and then compare the length of the trimmed cell versus the original cell different things like that that we could do. Or create one formula, I click that, and I jump down to this cell. Now how do I know what's in here? I go in the formula bar, I click in there, and sure enough, there's a couple of spaces afterwards. So it's the first cell with trailing spaces, or hyperlink to the last numeric value. So there's a bunch of different things in here: text, numbers, and blanks. I click this, I'm expecting it to jump to the last number. Well, it did. Hyperlink to the last text value. I click it, and that's the last text. And of course, hyperlink to the first error. That jumps right into here. I even just hard-coded the NA function, which produces an error. So these are all, we'll go into this in another video, but the hyperlink function, which is a normal function, but then we have some conditions, so we turn it into an array formula, which can be useful. The next one, let's call this, it's sort of a dynamic lookup. We want to say return the answer number or answer amount when the letter is G and the number is 31. So in a small data set, you can see it here. Here's G31, and there's the answer. Now, you could create helper columns to do this, but let's just assume, and sometimes this does happen, you only have one cell to write the formula in. For whatever reason, the rest of the sheet is full, or maybe it's a dashboard, and there's no other sheets that you can use, so you have to put the whole entire answer in one cell. So you see, it looks like a normal index match, but we're sort of concatenating different things together, but that's a different video once again. So another example of an array formula. We'll now go over to this sheet where we want, what is the thing here? How many words contain the letters ND? So how many countries in this column A contain ND? Anywhere within the word. Well, we could do a helper column all the way down saying search for ND within that cell, all the way down here. I mean, that's definitely possible. And then at the top, or we could just do a count if, I think, where did I put it? I had just a count if to say how many of these are numbers, something like that, or how many are not errors. But we could also do this in one step. See, I could erase all of this, and this still works. It's basically saying how many cells have, or how many countries have the text ND somewhere within the text of the country, and then it's just adding them up. Another example is we want to know how many countries have the length of 5 letters. So once again, our helper column, row by row, one by one, we figure out the length, and then where is it? Up here, I'm saying count if, how many of these have a length of 5. So I'm doing each little step, and then in the end I'm saying only count these if they're 5s. But if I don't have the space, or I'm not allowed to put this helper column in, we can use one array formula. See, there's no length if, but here we have a condition. If the length is equal to 5, give me a 1. So once again, we're not getting into syntax, but it is possible to create one formula that will count how many of these countries have a length of 5. So another one here. How many words have a length of, oh, that's the same description I used before. So here we are trying to, what we're trying to do here is say if, oh right, if the first character in this column is an L, and it has to be a capital L, then I want to count them. So that's what this is saying. So I have to use the left function to get one letter, the exact function to say it has to be all the first letters of each of these cells have to be exactly equal to, actually a capital R. So this says 21. Here I'm doing it step by step by step, all the way down. See, it gives me a true, because this is a capital R, gives me a true here, that's a capital R. And here's a 21 that's just saying, look at this range. So I'll click in here, look at this range, and count them if they're equal to true. How many trues do we have? 21. So two different ways to do it. This is a one step. If I were to clear all of this, it would still work. This looks directly at the data. So I'll just undo that last step. Control Z is the shortcut. So let's go into this cell, because I'm saying it has to be, let's just type in a giant R here. That's what we're trying to do. It has to be a capital R. So if I were to change this R to a small r, we will see the answers change. Currently it's 21. Now there's only 20 because I changed that. So once again, I'll change it back to a capital R and we'll see 21. Two different ways to do it. The longer way, or an array formula, one step. And finally, arrays are a very interesting topic, and I just wanted to point out this book that's coming up. Apparently in June we can get it. I've already pre-ordered mine on Amazon. It's called Control-Shift-Enter because, that's a nice one, to enter an array formula, you don't press enter like normal formulas. See those special brackets there? You have to go into the cell and press Control, hold down the Control key, hold down the Shift key, and press the Enter key to get your answer. So they've named their book Control-Shift-Enter, Mastering Excel Array Formulas. And I can guarantee you this will be a book worth purchasing. So let's go back to the beginning here. And this whole video is just about why you would need an array formula. So hopefully these examples I gave you, doing some pretty interesting things that wouldn't be possible unless you either do it in a very long way or get into VBA macro programming. So arrays can do some quite interesting things.